All right. Welcome back to Mommas Who Lead, the podcast for women who are building legacies while raising little humans, launching big dreams, and still trying to figure out what's for dinner. Today's episode is for my single mamas out there, and you're bold, you're resilient, you've got more tabs open in your brain than your laptop. And while you've mastered all these schedules, school drop-offs, and scaling your business, dating that still kind of feels like the wild, wild west. And maybe you've been told you're too busy for love. Maybe you've convinced yourself it's just not your season. Or maybe, just maybe, you're ready for something real, but have no idea where to start. That's why I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, Rebecca Norton. She is the director of matchmaking at Luma Luxury Matchmaking. She leads a national team helping high achieving professionals, including some single mamas, find meaningful, lasting relationships through personalized, human centered matchmaking. With more than a decade in the industry, Rebecca is the real deal. She knows for turning dating burnout into an aligned partnership and helping women shift from settling to selective. So if you're wondering how to lead in love the same way you lead in life, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, Rebecca, welcome. I'm so great. I'm thankful that you were here today, this conversation. I'm so excited for it. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? I'm so excited too, as well.
Good. So, okay, this is so exciting. Okay, I wanted to start with this. What drew you to matchmaking and what makes you so passionate about helping women find love?
Yeah. So, this is a huge part of someone's life, obviously. So, it's really about just helping people, in that huge part of their life. So, that's why it's such a big passion for me. Um, Obviously, I could do something, that maybe isn't going to go um, to be able to help somebody in their life. You know what I mean? This is a huge part. So, that's why I find passion in it.
Oh, I love that. So how did you start out in this?
About 11 years ago, I was doing a job search because I was in property management before, and the company that I was working for was going out of business. And I saw it on Indeed, and I'm like, is this a thing? I didn't even know it was a thing.
Right?
But I got into it and I love it. And I honestly couldn't imagine doing anything else.
It has to be, it's a very meaningful job. Like you're really helping people in this area because you get, I don't know, back whenever I was like first dating, like I tried like or not first dating, but like early when dating apps started, it wasn't really they weren't apps. It was oh my gosh, what was it? I think Match.com back like when it first launched. I tried that a couple of times, but I always felt like I wasn't like connecting with the people they were I was matching with. And so I think you guys bring more of a human-centered touch, right? So, what would like, what is the whole process when you go into this?
Yeah, so working with a professional matchmaker is definitely a lot different than using the apps.
Right.
The apps, you don't know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? A lot of times I find that people are just talking back and forth, then they're never getting anywhere to get out and actually meet in person, or they are, and then when they meet in person, it's not what they expected. The pictures are different. What they said what they like to do or what they do for a living or anything like that. Like could be like off, you know what I mean? And you don't know, it's not really safe either, you know what I mean? So, working with a professional matchmaker, that was more like getting matched by a friend or a family member, you know what I mean? So, we're meeting with all of your matches before, you even hear about them. Um, so,
You're really filtering them.
what was that? I'm sorry.
I said you're really filtering them out. And
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we're meeting with them face to face, and really just getting a deeper sense of, what they're looking for, if it aligns with what you're looking for. And we're seeing them face to face before you are. You know what I mean? So it's
right.
not like you're going to be surprised when you get out there and meet them.
Do you ever run across where, and I've heard so many women, and I dealt with this also when I was in the dating pool, is I would sometimes men would be like, you're a little too much for me, or you're too accomplished. They feel intimidated What's your take on that? Like, how do you help women break through that and find that right person who's not going to be intimidated by someone so successful?
Yeah. Well, again, that's where, meeting with them ahead of time to get a sense of how they feel, before introducing them to our clients. So if we have like a highly successful, which we work with, everyone we work with is very highly successful. So if we meet with someone and we feel like they're going to be intimidated, we typically wouldn't match them together. You know what I mean?
Oh, good.
But at the same time, women who are highly successful, I find that, sometimes maybe they bring more of that masculine energy. And I think at the end of the day, they kind of got to like soften it up just a little bit and not, I wouldn't say, obviously, they're still highly successful and accomplished, but you still want to have that, just tone it down a little bit with the dating, take it from work to dating because it is a lot different.
Oh, yes, yes. Um, what about, do you think that what's something that most people get wrong about modern dating, especially those juggling maybe obviously the professional side and then also parenting?
Mhm. Um, well, okay, so obviously when you're a busy mom and you're working, you got all these things you're juggling. It's hard to like take a step back and focus on yourself because you're focusing on your kids and you're always putting them first before yourself. But really you have to find the time to like take a step back and focus on yourself as well, to focus as much on the dating. So you want to kind of try to find that balance between the two.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, do you have any successful I'm sure you have well, you obviously have lots of successful stories, but any one particular that really stands out to you that you would love to share, like the process, obviously keeping their identities um, protected, but any good memories of helping individuals find love in this process?
Lots. So it just depends. If we're talking about single moms, I definitely have had one recently where, she's very successful CEO. She's, raising her kids. She's, running a business. She has a lot going on for her.
Mhm.
And when I mentioned earlier, when you got to kind of tone it down a little bit because she's used to having like that masculine energy, like at work, because she's running her business and she's dealing with high successful clients of her own,
Mhm.
as well as her children, so she's always like go 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 go. And I had a coaching session with her. Actually, I told her, just try to take a step back and just tone it down a little bit and focus on your date, and rather than like an interview, like when you get out on that date and then you turn it into more of an interview than getting to know someone and have fun. So you really just, once you get out on that date, you just want to relax and have fun, get to know the person. And she took my advice, and actually she's in a really successful relationship right now and on hold. So um, I think that's really good advice to give single moms, because I think they have a hard time breaking the two apart, you know what I mean, like
Oh,
finding that balance.
yes, yes. And I think that would be, them trying to struggle about trying to set some boundaries and also stay open to the possibilities of love too. Uh,
Mm.
what is your opinion on the idea of manifesting love?
Oh, I think that can absolutely happen. I mean, I think that you have to have a good mindset and you have to always stay positive and really think about what you want in a relationship. But also, you have to remember that nobody's going to be perfect, right? So
Mhm.
I think that people tend to come into to dating and they have like these boxes and they want, they have a checklist of things that they want, and they're always looking for every checkbox to be marked. You know what I mean? So you always have to remember that no one's ever going to be perfect. So you always have to, at the end of the day, what can you live with? What are some things that are really important to you? Think about some deal breakers, and then kind of fine tune it from there.
Do you ever teach your clients any red flags to look for, like for them to spot early when they're in this dating process?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different, it just depends on the person again. Um, but I think maybe someone who maybe look out for it, like if someone's not, putting a lot of attention into the dating process, they're just like maybe every once in a while they'll reach out to you. I would say that maybe that they're not as interested in them, and maybe they're trying to see if they can find someone better, but they're like keeping them there too, just in case, you know what I mean? So maybe that's a red flag to look out for. At the same time, maybe someone who's love bombing like really fast, you know what I mean? They're talking about, wanting to get married on the first date, you know what I mean? I think that's a little too much. So, um,
I've had that a couple of times.
yeah, I
I'm
think
like, oh, hold
everybody
up.
has. I think everybody has, but I think
Yeah.
that's a red flag, maybe a little bit too eager.
Hmm.
Um, so it just depends. We do actually, when clients first sign up with us, we do a personality test. So there's like different things that they could look out for that may be red flags. Maybe to tell you if they're in a healthy or an unhealthy relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So we do that with our clients before they even start dating. Just things to look out for.
What what does make Luma's approach different from other matchmaking services?
Yeah, well, we definitely have, we try to give the white glove service. So we're focusing on high caliber matches. And all of our matchmakers are, we put as much effort into our matchmaking team as we do our clients, because at the end of the day, if our matchmakers are happy, obviously they're going to do a better job than if they have a chip on their shoulder. You know what I mean? So I think we have a really good team, and we really focus on that white glove service for our clients.
Now, what about, let's say that's, somebody who's listening, they're considering this, but they're afraid to reach out and afraid to really take that step forward. What would you say to her that is listening?
Yeah, I think that, if you always have to take that step forward, you know what I mean? Because if you're afraid and you don't, then you're not going to get anywhere. You know what I mean? So I think stepping, because dating is scary, right? I mean, it's a scary process, but you have to take that step outside of your comfort zone to get to where you want to be, right?
Mhm.
So
Why do you think like you think, I guess a lot of high achievers often struggle more with love than their careers?
yeah, because I think that they're putting more effort into their careers than taking a step back and reminding themselves that, there has to be a balance before both. So if they're like, especially single moms, you know what I mean? Because, they're thinking of their kids and then their job, and they're putting all this time and effort into that, but then not putting effort into themselves as well, on the love part of it. So
Yeah, the mindset is a big thing, I think, too. And obviously the kid factor, usually would definitely come up, but how do you coach them through this? Like someone who's experienced, repeated heartbreak, they're afraid to move forward. They'd rather just focus on their career, but they are also missing that piece, that love that could just enhance their lives more.
mhm. Yeah, well, they have to remember, first of all, that not everybody's the same. So they may have had heartbreak in the past, but that doesn't mean that, everybody out there is going to be the same. You know what I mean? And working with a professional matchmaker, I think that you have a better chance at finding more of what you're looking for than if you're like, again, on the apps, and then, you're just scrolling and scrolling and talking, and you're not getting anywhere. And then you're meeting people on the apps that make you feel like, everybody's out there is the same. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes. Oh my gosh.
So,
Yes.
but working with a professional matchmaker, I think you really get a different experience. We're really focusing on what you're looking for, what's going to be healthy for you in the long run. So, a lot of times, too, people think that, maybe they're looking for this certain specific type of person, but they're always dating the same type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think working with a matchmaker, it gives you a different perspective on, maybe what's going to work for you long term. So somebody you would have picked out on your own maybe would be completely opposite of what we would pick out for you, but then that ends up being what works. You know what I mean? Because you're always dating the same types and you're not getting anywhere, right? So sometimes it just needs a little bit of a change.
Yeah, there's something not working with your choices. Let's help you a little bit.
Right.
Let's try something a little different. And who knows, it might actually work.
And it does.
What would you say what makes that relationship last? And no, it's not just a spark.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, like it's a lot. You can't have it like one-sided. It has to be like a team. You know what I mean? Their outcomes in life and what their goals and their aspirations and everything, you have to align with yours. And I think at the end of the day, like working as a team rather than it being one-sided. Like I mentioned earlier, you're meeting these guys who maybe, well, every once in a while they're like reaching out to you and like, oh, let's go out on the date, but you're not getting anywhere, right? So you want to meet people where you can work together as a team, because I think that team aspect of it is going to get you further than just trying to keep it one-sided. Maybe one side is more interested in the other, or your goals in life are completely off from each other. So again, working with a matchmaker, we're going to find out exactly what you're looking for long term. So I think that's why it works out better.
Yeah, it sounds like, gosh, I wish I knew of something like this back when I was in dating because it would have
Yeah.
helped so much. Oh gosh. Let's see. What do you think in your experience? Well, we're talking about, how knowing you're ready for love and whatnot, but what helps that love stick, especially in blended families or second chance relationships?
Well, especially with blended families, I think that you have to, like, when there's children involved,
Hmm.
maybe not take over as like the mom or the dad role, but you want to be there as, to be supportive and treat them as you would your own. You know what I mean? I think that is definitely a big thing. And again, just working together as a team, and rather than, it being one-sided.
How do you support the woman who feels exhausted by dating? I mean, trying to do she's running her successful business, but also still trying to date and, still longing for that partner, but she's just exhausted.
Well, it is exhausting at the end of the day, but when you're looking for love, you have to be able to put in that effort. And at the end, it is exhausting because you're meeting a lot of people, you know what I mean? And it's not working out. And it's like you're continuing to date, you know what I mean? So that's why it's so tiring, because you're not meeting that, one person on the first date. So it's a constant fine tuning, you know what I mean? But then at the end of the day, when you do meet your person, it all kind of, falls into place and makes sense. And you just have to be able to put in that effort and the time to get there.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like, do you really want it? You've got to put in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You do.
what's
It's a
the
big thing.
what do you think the biggest mindset shift you've seen that changes someone's dating life?
Remember that it's not all about you. I think you know what I mean. It's both. It goes both ways. So you have like this idea in your head, and I need this, this, and this. But at the end of the day, your partner needs things too. So you have to be able to remember that and put effort into your partner as well.
That's a good one. Like, there's two people. It's not just you.
Yeah,
And that's hard when
exactly.
there's a lot of masculine energy. You're pairing successful people together, and there's some real masculine energies going on. Uh,
Right.
what do you think is the number one trait you see in women who attract high quality partners?
Well, they have to be high quality themselves. Do you know what I mean? If
Mhm.
you want a high quality partner, you need to be high quality yourself at the end of the day.
Yes. Yes, that is so good. Um, okay. Is there any small daily practice like single moms can do to prepare for love that you can recommend?
Let go of the past, first of all, because if you're going into dating and you're holding on to that baggage from a previous relationship, you're never going to be successful. You know what I mean? It's always going to be in the back of your mind. So you need to heal yourself before you actually go out and try to, work on something new. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if you're going in, with all that baggage, it's just going to constantly keep coming up. You know what I mean? So you want to kind of start fresh.
That is so true. What would you tell your younger self about love and partnership?
It takes time and effort. You gotta, because I think that people are in a rush to find something. And if it doesn't work out right away, then they tend to just let it go. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, any successful relationship is going to take, time and effort to put into it. So you can't be so quick to think that there's something else better out there.
That's good. Um, what do you think is the most underrated green flag in modern dating?
Green flag?
Green flag.
Somebody putting effort into you, maybe. A lot of times women tend to think, oh, this maybe he's too good to be true. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of let things go because they're scared and they think, things are so good. I think it's too good. And then they kind of take it as a red flag when actually it was a green flag. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I know. I remember thinking in the dating process, like they were being so nice. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is a little off here. Oh, what do
Ah,
you want? What? um,
yeah.
but it is. It's a green flag. I mean, obviously there could be other things too, but
Hmm.
I mean, we should be a little bit open to people being kind.
Hmm.
Um, how do you help your clients set some standards without building walls?
Yeah, I think that you need to make a list again of like, what you absolutely need in a relationship. What are your deal breakers?
Hmm.
And then base it, you have to base it on each person. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that nobody's going to be perfect. So you can't like be expecting, perfection because nobody is perfect at the end of the day. So you really need to just sit down and make a list of things that, a couple things, not like a whole list. You know what I mean? Like just a
Right.
couple deal breakers that you absolutely can't live with. You know what I mean? And some things that, you really do want. So,
That makes sense. And so whenever you're working with someone, you go through a whole coaching with them as well, kind of like.
mhm.
And so how do you coach them to avoid these repeating patterns, especially if they've always been like the fixer or the giver in the relationships, if you will?
Yeah, well, again, is I don't think it's a bad thing to be a fixer or giver in a relationship, but they have to be able to give it back to you as well. So it can't be one-sided at the end of the day. Like, you're putting in a lot of effort, but they're not. If you're putting in a lot of effort and they're putting in just as much as effort as you are, I mean, that's a good thing, but you have to kind of be careful with that. So if you're the one who's constantly doing and giving and they're not, then that's a big red flag. And I would say maybe move on.
Yes, yes, I think so too. Um, Rebecca, this has been so awesome. This conversation has been more than just dating tips. Honestly, it's kind of like a little mini masterclass. And it's a masterclass in reclaiming what you want, owning your power in partnership, and choosing love without losing yourself. Before we wrap up, I would love to hear like how would somebody, if they want to work with you, they've been listening, like, okay, this sounds really intriguing. How do I get involved? How do I hire my own matchmaker to get me help me find that perfect match?
Yeah, I would go to lumasearch.com and set up a time to talk with one of our matchmakers.
Awesome. And how does that process, like if you set up a time, how long, what's the timeline for this process usually?
It's different with everybody. We have to make sure that you're going to be a good fit for us too, and that we have matches. obviously that we can match you with. So it's a big process. So in the beginning, we're going to do like an interview just to make sure again that we can take you on as a client. And then after that, you're going to meet with your specific matchmaker, and we're going to go over a lot of things. Like I said, the personality testing. We do something called a mini life bio where we really get to know you on a deeper level. So obviously before we're going in to match you, we know you, on a really deep level. And we start at your childhood and kind of up to where you are now and how you got there. So that's about an hour Zoom meeting we have before we even start matching you. So it's a detailed process, but obviously, things that we need to know so that way we're matching you properly.
And you're nationwide?
We are.
Okay. Are you global yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. We have some global listeners though. So maybe you guys can think about that too.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that's exciting. Okay, so if you're listening, you want to reach out to them, reach out to lumasearch.com and you could connect with Rebecca and her team. And Rebecca, just thank you so much for bringing your warmth, your wisdom, and deep experience to Mamas Who Lead. And if there's anything else you would love to share with our listeners before we go.
Nope, just wishing everybody happiness and love. And if anyone wants to work with us, just definitely reach out and let us know.
Awesome. To our listeners, if this episode spoke to something in you, maybe it's time to stop swiping and start aligning. Whether you're single and curious or ready for your forever person, remember you're not too much, too successful, too busy, or too anything. You're just waiting for the right person to match your energy. You can connect with Rebecca and learn more about Luma Luxury Matchmaking at lumasearch.com. If you love this conversation, take a screenshot, tag us at Laura Caroffino and at Mommas Who Lead and tell us your biggest takeaway. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep believing in what's possible.